Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. If you could just let me know if you can see me, you can hear me, you can do all the things that you used to do when we do a live stream. I've got cans on today and you'll understand why in a moment. But just let me know in the comments if you can actually hear everything that I'm saying. So please do let me know in those comments. Okay, so good evening, Steve. How are we doing, young man? I hope you're doing well. Can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can. Let me just check. Evening, Charlie. Good to see you. All good. Thank you very much, Steve. You're a gentleman. So we're going to give it a minute or so before we get started, and then we'll crack on and introduce my conversation guest for tonight, which I'm sure you already know anyway, because you've seen the thumbnail that I put up, but I've been promoting it over the last couple of days, so I'm pretty sure you probably know who it's going to be. Okay, so are you all doing well? Let me know in the comment section. Just love to know that you're all doing well, you're safe and sound, and you're looking forward to another Thursday evening where we have a little bit of a chat. Like I say, tonight we've got a guest with us. We're going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to hand it over to Vito, and he's going to go through what he wants to cover today. Then we're going to have a Q&A session. If you've got questions as we go through, let me know, and I'll pass those over as and when we're ready to. And we'll have a full-on Q&A session at the end where you can ask whatever questions you want with regards to what we're going to be covering. So, tonight, I'm going to be talking to Vito Peleg. Now, I'm sure many of you know Vito. He's prevalent in the WordPress space. He's the brains behind what was formerly known as WPFeedback Pro. It's now been rebranded. We'll go over that in a little bit. And this is a great tool that allows you to get almost instant feedback between you designing a website for a client or making updates and changes and so on, and the client actually passing that information on. So you can action those very, very quickly. But I'm going to do a rubbish job of telling you all about it. Vito's going to do a much better job. So I'm just going to say hello to Vito tonight. And good evening, sir. I hope you're doing well.
I'm great, Paul. It's exciting to be with you here.
It's great
Thanks
to
for
have you
having
here.
me.
No, it's absolutely great to have you, Jen. I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions for you tonight. But as always, we sort of let the first few minutes kind of go by. We'll have a little bit of chat, kind of just, say hello to everybody. It allows everybody to sort of get into the live stream before we start talking about things, so people don't really miss what's happening in the beginning. So I'm just going to say good evening to a couple of people that we used to see around here, some of the usual faces. So we've got Steve Proin, always good to see you. Wouter van Meren, good to see you too as well. Charlie Bird, always a pleasure to see you in this evening. So we're going to be talking all about Vito's main project, the rebranding, what it offers you, and how it can help you be much more effective when you're working with your clients. So I'm going to hand you over now to Vito. He's going to introduce himself better than I will and give you a brief overview of exactly what the tool that he's actually promoting is all about.
So, my name is Vito, and I'm the founder of WP Feedback and now Atarim. We're doing a massive rebrand to fix some of the positioning kind of stuff that we had with WP Feedback, which is a platform that it was kind of like self-explanatory from the name that allowed people to gather feedback inside WordPress. And like Paul, like you were saying, the idea is to kind of overcome the challenges of back and forth with clients, loads of vague messages from either side, or even worse, them not doing it at all. And that really worked well with the tool initially. And over the past 18 months, we just kept on building out and kept on building that through the awesome traction that we managed to create early on. We kind of found that there was a deeper challenge that was causing the fact that why clients don't really comply with what we need from them. Why don't they provide the content or approve the designs, or why when they reach out to us doing support, it's like two words and they expect us to see exactly what they can't even picture in their minds that they're talking about. And that's where the platform evolved. And so as we were kind of building things out and expanding what started as a standalone plugin, now it evolved into a full-on SaaS solution with a complementary plugin that integrates into the client's website as simply the client interface. But a lot of the challenges that we're all experiencing as freelancers and agencies actually come from the point of view that we're all basically technicians. I started myself as a freelancer. I started as a musician, same as Paul, and I got into the game of design. and building websites for some friends and then for some small businesses. And from there, it grew to an agency of 12 guys here in London. And through that kind of through that growth, I was still a designer in my mindset and in my being. And I wasn't really a project manager, or I wasn't really like a business owner, as you kind of picture that. I just wanted to do my craft and provide beautiful websites for my clients. And that is where a lot of the struggles that we're all facing are coming from just the point that we are not project managers. We're not in it for the admin. We're not in it for the point of view of managing clients. We just want to get the job done and do it as best as we can, and then everything else is what's usually on fire within the business. So I want to make sure that through this hour, along with Paul, we're just going to go through some of the principles of what creates an awesome project, what, or how I like to call it, the perfect project framework. And we've actually talked to over the past year or so. When I was locked down in my office, I had the opportunity to talk to a few hundred agencies and talk about a few thousand projects that they've delivered, to see why and how they are actually doing that. And from that, I gathered all of this information to what I'm going to share with you here today. And actually, the reason why I did it initially is so that we can build features that will complement the build and complement the things that we're already doing. And of course, I've been doing this for more than a decade myself. So a lot of the stuff are kind of stuff that I needed myself, and a lot of stuff are stuff that our users needed just from feature requests and through our communities on Facebook, and just from the coaching sessions that we're doing internally. So how about we dive in, Paul?
Yes, by all means. That sounds like a fantastic way to go about it. So do you want me to pass you over to your screen so you can give your presentation? Yeah?
Yeah,
okay?
let's do that. Yeah. I'll share the screen here.
Okie dokie. So we should have... Oh, bear with me a second. Let me just see...
There we go.
There we
now
go.
You should
okay.
have it, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's the button that I was looking for, and I'll just drag this guy out of here and minify this so I can see Paul again. Where are you? There you are. Okay, cool. So if everyone can see my screen, just let me know in the chat so that we can start diving in. How to deliver projects fast and more importantly, like efficiently. Reducing all of the annoying back and forth, and getting the clients to comply with the stuff that we need throughout the delivery, and basically just getting to a more realistic time span of a project. And when I say that, I just want to kind of talk to you about here's what we're going to cover a little bit. So we're going to talk about the components of a website project, the perfect project framework, as I like to call it. Then we're going to identify the main 3 bottlenecks that happen in most cases, or I'm sure that you're not going to find more than those 3 huge bottlenecks that sometimes get the project stuck over a couple of days, sometimes it's weeks. And I even had a couple of clients that got stuck for a couple of years through those bottlenecks. And then we're going to, through identifying the 3 bottlenecks, we're going to see the main challenges of delivering projects. And finally, we're going to see how to drop 80% of the project delivery time just from that realization, and with our complementary tool that allows us to systemize and automate a lot of the stuff that we're doing. And so after that, of course, or even during that, I told Paul, just push questions as they come. So feel free to ask anything within the comment feed on the side over there, and I will be happy to answer any questions around the project delivery, being a freelancer, being an agency, systemization, and working with clients and all of those kind of stuff. So as we're getting started, let me ask you this. Let's say that when you're starting a client project, and I'm talking about a pretty basic 10-page website, small business website, how long does it usually take you to build that website along with the client? From the time you get on the phone call with them, since you got that lead, all the way to the website is live on the internet. So let's see a bit on the comments and see what we're getting here. how long does it take you to build a basic website?
Well, there's the golden question. I think it's one of those things that I speak for myself while other people are sort of catching up with us. Uh, I've got the kind of way I set things up, taking out, a tool like this, is that once the contract is approved, then depending upon the project type, they go into a calendar block. So in other words, I'll know a e-commerce site is 2 to 4 weeks or 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the complexity. So then I fill my calendar up with those, and I have a 1 week block in between projects to allow me to do, ancillary stuff. So from my point of view, it's one of those things that I know how much I block in for doing it. If it takes that time is a different thing, and I think this is something you do kind of develop as time goes on. But if you have multiple projects on the go, or like you were saying, you've got multiple people and you could be outsourcing or freelancing, then that adds a whole level of complexity to it. So I think anything that can realistically help that side of things is going to be a big advantage. But
Awesome.
let's take a little look. So you were saying something between 3 days and 3 years. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, as you were saying, you were kind of pointing this out to around 3 to 4 weeks or 5 to 6 weeks on some projects. And again, just to kind of clarify for some of the people that are commenting, I agree. It sometimes takes 3 years, and you have to change the font size. I like that one also. But usually when it comes to just a standard website, we're talking about like 10 business pages, one of those small portfolio websites. Usually what we're going to see is around, let me see if we're going to get some numbers. Come on, share with us some numbers. So we'll see how long does it take you guys.
Well, we've got Laura saying it's too variable for me. It all depends on the client's needs, a custom work that needs to be done.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay, you have a timeline for each part of the project. It really works out like that, right? So as Steve is trying to systemize the process, but then the clients push back or the world pushes back, right?
True.
And then we have scope creeps coming into the game. But anything between a couple of weeks and a couple of years, it seems there. For a simple blog website, we have 30 days here. Okay, that's great. And so now let me ask you this: if you were building that same simple website, 8 to 10 pages, provided that you have everything that you need, and you're building this on your own, how long will that take you to build that same website without anyone, just you and your computer?
Ooh, there's the golden question. How long will it take you? Let's ask that. Before you were doing this, before you had, am I saying this right? Atarim?
Yes.
Atarim, yeah. Before you had started using that, you started building that, how long would it take you? Let's just say someone come along and said they wanted to have a 10-page business website. No e-commerce, anything like that. What would your typical timescale be if that was you doing it yourself, yourself?
As I was doing that, it usually took me between 4 to 6 weeks to get the project from start to finish. Of course, that's provided that they actually did the work within the time span that was allocated. But again, we had a client, and I'll never forget her, that literally took more than a year to just deliver the about page. I'm not talking about the rest of the website. And that included like weekly follow-ups and phone calls, and at some point, and loads of excuses. We didn't want to hear from her ever again. But the project was still going. At some point, she told me, I can't do it because I had a baby. But when we started the project, she wasn't even pregnant.
Yeah.
So like excuses just came out of everywhere. So it was usually between 4 to 6 weeks to do that kind of basic website. Then on my own, especially now after years of doing this, probably takes a couple of days. How about you, Paul? How long would it take you to do a basic 10-page website, just diving in and getting it done?
Probably about the same as what you just said. I mean, to kind of go back to what you were saying with your ideal client, I think one of the things, I mean, I've experienced those kinds of clients. I had one recently that I think it was 2.5 years and ended up, because of what happens with the the current health situation, and I'm going to give it a try myself now. It's like, well, fine, hand it off. You didn't get the content. But there's a couple of things that I've done to take care of that side of things. Is my approval, when they actually sign up and they pay the deposit, they agree into two things. The deposit is valid for 12 months. Outside that, tough. You've lost it. Obviously, it's my discretion. If something happened and you wanted to be fair about it, you go, well, look, blah, blah, blah. And the other thing is that if they don't supply the content, then the project just doesn't go ahead. It's as simple as that. No content, no project. And if you put it into my pipeline and you don't supply what's needed, you're taken out of my pipeline, and then you'll get slotted back in when you provide everything that's needed, and I have space for you. So that could be 6 months down the line in a busy period. So,
Right.
You've got to take care of yourself like that, because you do end up with some people that will just drag it on for eternity. And you just kind of you can't plan for that kind of thing.
I agree, and this is exactly what we did. We had a clause in the contract that if you're not going to deliver the content in time, then we're just going to continue on with the build and deliver the website with lorem ipsums all around. But then looking at it after, or especially with my experience over the past 2 years working with so many agencies, I kind of feel that it's on me that it happened, and it felt like adding this clause to our contract felt like it was more about rolling that responsibility over to the client, because when they start a project with us, they expect the project to get done. They don't really know what it involves, or what are the stages of delivering a website project. I know, but if I didn't manage to convey this to them properly, why are they paying the fine for it? Because I am the professional eventually.
Yeah.
So while I agree that this is the common approach, basically adding that clause to the contract, I think that this should really be. And you and I know that if it gets to that point that you need to enforce the clause, it's already too late, right? For the project.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
It's already kind of gone. So we want to make sure that we have the proper systems in place to inspire the client to go through the project from start to finish without all of this additional mess, and without needing to pull out the agreement, which is always the worst. In any relationship, it's the worst thing to do, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So let me share my screen here, and I'll see what I found. So when I was kind of surveying our users and just the community as a whole, we found that usually most agencies would take between 5 to 8 weeks to deliver a basic 10-page website. That includes going through the different stages, freelancers and agencies. Some people skip the stages and they feel that it's faster because of it, but actually that's what encourages scope creep. That's what creates a lot of frustrations from the client side, because they didn't go through what I call the natural learning curve that a client needs to go through. But the standard is between 5 to 8 weeks. And then usually when asked how long it's going to take you on your own, usually one week. We have we can see all kinds of similar responses in here. And the crazy thing here is that we've lost 6 full weeks of that project on nothing. Nothing really happens. Those extra 6 weeks that were added to the project are usually time that there is no work. We're just sitting there waiting for the client to comply. I don't mean we're not working at all, because we're probably doing other projects and other stuff. But I mean, for that particular project, there is no progress. The client is just procrastinating. We're following up, or not, even worse. We send them off to get the content for weeks and weeks, and in a lot of times that will happen too early on in the project. But eventually what happens here is an 84% difference between the real time of building a website, and as soon as you involve one person along with you on that project, boom, it grew by 6 weeks on average, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Just a bit, yeah.
So I'm going to skip who I am, because we already talked about that. So let me share with you the perfect project workflow, and this is the perfect project framework. And this is again after talking to 1,000 plus freelancers and agencies in their projects to see how they do it properly, and identifying those kind of problems within it. So I'd love to hear on the chat, and also from you, Paul, Are you going through all of these stages when you're delivering a project?
Uh, Everything bar, I would say, wireframing. Prototyping, yes, and we've kind of had this discussion, I think, in some of the live chats before, is some people like to use a tool like XD, and some
Right.
people just like to just jump in. If you're using a tool like Elementor or Divi or something like that, from my point of view, I'm quicker working with that than I
Right.
am with a program like XD. And I think the added benefit of using a tool like that is the fact that then you can hand off to your client and they can physically interact with it in an environment they're used to, you're in the browser kind of thing. So they get a better
Right.
idea of the experience. But I think apart from that, yes, I do all the other options inside the sort of the workflow, then, as it were.
Perfect. I agree with you, and I agree again with the concept of people usually do this the wireframes and the prototyping stages inside tools like XD or Sketch or before we used to do it in Photoshop and stuff like that.
Mm.
But really nowadays in the page builders age, it's not really it doesn't make sense, right? It feels
No.
like you're just creating more work for yourself, and even more than that, you're usually kind of confusing the client with sending them annotated. Now you need to
Mm.
annotate those images and those stuff, and it just creates a bit of a mess in there. So I 100% agree with you, and we'll see how to do that also inside the browser with that same methodology as you're talking about here.
Oh, cool, cool.
Just kind of to go through this real quick, what we have here is starting from the proposal. Once the proposal gets signed, we got to get paid something, but usually between 30 to 50%. And then after that, we're going to go on a discovery a session where it's usually done over Zoom or face to face or over the phone. Or a lot of people do that through just like sending out a Google form or a link on their website to a Gravity form or something like that, where the client is expected to just give some details. What is your brand about? What are your main services and your main goals from this project? What are the goals for the next year? Who are your main competitors? Maybe 3 websites that you like, that kind of stuff on the discovery session.
Yeah.
Just to give us, but also for them, that clarity of what we're going to be doing over the next 6 to 8 weeks, right? Usually,
Yeah.
and then usually, and also through this discovery process after this stage, I'm sure you would agree, Paul. After this is where the energy is at its highest, right? Everyone is super excited, super
Yeah.
pumped about the project. Oh my God, this is gonna be amazing, because you just talk about possibilities and opportunities. You're not talking about restrictions in most cases. In this case, everything is possible, ideally, right?
If they've got the
If
budget,
they've got the
yeah.
budget, yeah. If they got the budget, of course. Yeah, I also had a few people that asking you for the next Facebook for 500 pounds, so you have to kind of put things in perspective, and this is a great place to do that as well. But because we're starting off, and because they made a financial investment right before that, usually they give you the benefit of the doubt at this stage, and they kind of trust you with those questions. Of course, as long as you're asking the right questions and you're going deep into their strategy and really to understand their business, not just to build a website, but to build the front of their business online.
Exactly, yeah. I
Exactly,
mean,
yeah. I mean,
I think that's the big part that maybe some people miss out on is the fact that, you are there to not just take what they say and then just build it. I
yes,
think as a web designer, in whatever capacity that is, part of your job is to educate your client into what's possible, what's viable, and interpret what they say they want to what they really need.
proper solution.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you know. So I think
I
the
agree.
that first stage there after where you're doing your sort of you're finding out what they want and everything, that initial conversation meetings and so on, they're probably the most important aspect of the entire project, because you get it wrong from that point and then everything else can flow down. And I think that's where a lot of confusion can potentially come in, is not understanding and not conveying maybe what they should be looking for to what they think they want.
That's very true, because this is the place where, and this is where scope creep comes from, because the client has a picture in their mind, or they don't have a picture, but they have a very general idea of what it should do or how it should work. But again, it's our job to make sure that they don't get distracted by by flashy bits. I had a client that wanted just diamonds all over the website that were flashing with multicolors and all of those kind of stuff. So
Lovely.
fine, but it's not. I'm not gonna do that, because we actually have a business to serve here, and it's very important to help them realize that the website is really not for me and it's not for them. It's
No.
for their clients, and that's what we're trying to create.
I think that's one of the hardest things for people to get their head around, is that it's not for them.
Yeah,
It's like they think the concept is like, well, I'm paying money for this, so I want it to be what I want. It's like, well, yeah, but they come up with these crazy ideas, and then you say to them, well, when you go to a site that offers what you were looking to offer, would you do that? Would you use that? No, never would. So why do you want it on yours? Why do you think that everybody else is going to be different? They go, oh, I never thought of that. It's like, and that's part of that discovery process, is to temper expectations, to advise the right way to get the results they want, and find out what they're actually trying to achieve.
yes,
If
exactly.
if you don't know that, you can't craft. There's nothing worse than a client saying they want X. You build a website that satisfies X, and then they actually realize they wanted Y. But you've done,
Yeah,
all your work has been down the X route, and it's not what they want, they need, or is even going to service their business in the way they expected it to. And I think that's a difficult one. I think, especially novice designers, if you're freelancing or you're part of an agency and you are client facing, that's something that takes confidence to be able to tell a client, they look at the wrong thing, you're going with the wrong way. This is what you realistically need to be doing. And I think that's probably where a lot of younger, and I don't mean age-wise, but I mean as in experience,
yeah.
designers may struggle, be able to sort of confront a client then when they're wrong, when they come up with the wrong idea.
I agree. And one of the reasons why this is happening is, again, because usually when you're starting off, you're skipping stages. So you do that call, and it's like after the first 5 minutes, like, okay, I understand what this guy needs. I'm gonna build it.
Yeah,
And then you just present something that you worked on, and then it's like, what? That's not really close to what they had in mind.
yeah,
So a lot of the additional stages that we're seeing here are basically, most of the stages that are in here are designed to help the client get on the same page as us and go through that natural learning curve throughout the project, or even more, get them down this rabbit hole, because building a website is a rabbit hole. We've been doing this for years, and we know that when we look at a website, we don't just see the website. We see the matrix, right? We
yeah.
see the color schemes, we see the call to actions, the different sections, the hero sections, and the icons, and how they're laid out. What is the flow between the different pages? So there is a lot of things to take in. And usually when a client is being dropped into a complete website, they're just like, they just get lost, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm gonna go back to here, I'm gonna keep running through this, the architecture, the wireframe here. So again, the point of creating a sitemap is to get them to a point where they can see the what we're actually building, but from above, so that we're not adding a lot of complexity to the situation. We're just kind of mapping out, creating something that looks very similar to this slide right here, so that they can really understand what we're going to be building. And a lot of those scope creeps are going to be discovered, or what will become a scope creep are going to be discovered at this stage. Like we actually want to have a booking form, or we actually don't need three products on the website. We actually have 300 products on the website, which completely changes the scope and the way that you would approach the project. So the sitemap is very important. It's a small step that is going to save us a lot of time, but it also has other benefits that we'll see in a minute. Then we're going to dive into wireframes and prototypes. And again, the idea is to take the client one step deeper into that rabbit hole. Once they saw it just laid out as blocks, now they can see the pages without the design stripped out, so they can really understand the layout and the flows, as well as a great opportunity for us to do one of the biggest challenges, as shown in the next slide. After that, only after that, we can get started with the design and the development of the website, because we have the clarity that we need, the client has the clarity that they need, and we're only going to build what we agreed on the previous stages, so that we don't need 1,000 revision rounds like sometimes happens when you skip those stages, right? And of course, after that, boom, to the launch. And even more important than the project itself is getting them on a maintenance plan, on a care plan, to create that sustainability within our business. But a lot of people look at this as the bread and butter of the business, right, Paul? That's like the thing that pays the rent, the thing that pays for the internet bill at the end of the month, the licenses.
Exactly. I mean, every business needs residual income. We need to have money coming in every single month. And like you say, maintenance plans, care plans, however you want to sort of brand them, all those things are, to start off with, they don't seem particularly important, because when you've got 5 clients,
Yeah.
it's like you say, it's covering some of the bills. But when you've got 100 clients, that's a completely different thing. And I think that's what you need to do, is always have your eye on the future, not where you are now, not where you are in 6 months, but where you're going to be in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time. Because those are things that, if you put things in place now to work effectively, you'll start to reap the rewards further on down the line, when you put those things into plan.
I 100% agree. I would even add to it that while this is a great way to create that recurring revenue, and even more than that, and when I first started, I didn't want to do the maintenance. I just wanted to build a website, send the client off on his way, and move on to the next design project. But it didn't stop them from calling me,
No, no, not at all.
and asking stuff that I wasn't getting paid for. So might as well just get paid for it. But even more than that, the care plan is our stepping stone for additional revenue from the same clients, for upselling and keep expanding the website. We know that websites only starts when the project ends, right? It doesn't end there.
Yeah, and we were talking on last week's Lockdown Live, and one of the things, because the whole concept of Lockdown Live last week was about building relationships, not websites. And I think that kind of plays in exactly with that. If you, during the life cycle of building their site, whether this is a new client or an existing client, or like you say, you've upsold or side sold or whatever, when you have a relationship there, by having the maintenance plan, by having these things, you stay in their minds. So when they're looking for something that you offer, they'll think immediately to come back to you. They won't be thinking, oh, where do I get that from? And they'll go on Google and they'll search for someone local to them.
You are the man.
That's right. You'll be the first person they think of, because they've already got a relationship that they're comfortable with, and they know you can provide and maybe over-deliver, which ultimately that's what we'd all like to do. And that means that you don't have to sell to that person anymore. It's more difficult to find a new client than it is to upsell, side sell, cross sell, or even just provide extra value to an existing client, because they spread the word, they talk to other people.
It's actually 8 times harder to find a new client than to sell to an existing one.
Yeah.
And so imagine all the efforts that we're doing on trying to go out and bring in leads in, and going through discovery sessions, calls with creating proposals. Once the client is in and is on the care plan, if they need additional landing pages or something happens in the industry, like when I first started, the big thing was, oh, you need a responsive website, right? Then it was, oh my God, you have to have an SSL on your website. And then after that, we had GDPR coming in. So every year there is this thing. Yeah, exactly. So every year there is something that you can really reach out to the client. And I think that a great example is dentists. Dentists actually learn about this in school. How they tell us to come in for a checkup every 3 to 6 months or so. It's not really for us. It's just so they can sell us the next thing on their list. So your teeth look fine, but by the way, I think that you should buy this electric toothbrush, and we just happen to sell it here for 300 quid. On your way out, just grab that. Next time you're coming in, okay, this is fine, but how about we go deeper with deep cleaning and whatever, and every time they extract a little more revenue out of the same clients. And that is the model that is the right way to go about it when it comes to web design as well. So now I'm going to dive into the main 3 bottlenecks, and this is what gets projects stuck. And let me know in the chat if you think that I missed anything in here, or if you think that these things are easy. I actually organized them based on severity. So the hardest thing to do is gathering content. And then the second hardest thing to do is getting the design approved But when I'm saying approved, it's not just getting the client to tell you that the logo needs to be bigger, but also getting like the proper feedback that you need to provide that solution. So not those one-liners, but getting them to a place where you're getting the screenshot, the URL, all of the stuff that you would need to actually complete that each one of those requests on the first try, instead of changing the color 3 times throughout the website, as I did a few times before, just because I didn't understand what the client was talking about, because the client didn't know how to explain what they were talking about. And then finally, the last thing is ongoing support. There's a really good reason why this is a challenge to really understand what the client wants at this stage. Is this because, and we know this from being business owners ourselves, when we have a project on our hands, we focus on this project. We allocate time for that project, and we hope to get it done and then move on to the next project within our business, or the next fire that is burning within the business, right? So that's exactly the mindset shift that happens here. When the website gets launched, then even the best clients that usually send out detailed information about different requests, and you have really meaningful conversations with them throughout the project, then it just becomes 2 words: the button is broken. What? There's like 1,000 buttons on the website. Then you start freaking out. The client starts to freak out, and all of those kind of stuff. So that's why this is happening. It just happens because the client's focus is no longer on you; it's on someone else that is delivering another project, or is hiring someone, or is firing someone, or someone is sick, or whatever. So there's all kinds of other stuff that happen within business, as we know as business owners, that when we don't focus on a project, we need to deal with. So that's the third challenge that we have here. Now, I also kind of laid out the usual time spans that these things take. So gathering content. Paul, when do you ask for the content?
Right, but content is one of those things that's one of the first things I do. If I kind of give you the starting point of my project lifecycle, first thing I'll do is, after you've had that kickoff meeting, you've discussed exactly what you want, the contract's been signed, they've got the proposal, they know exactly what they're getting, they know what they're paying for, then I'll give them a block of my time. So I'll say from the 1st of March until the 31st of March or 30th of March, whatever, that will be your block of time for me to work on this project. 1 week prior to that start date, I have to have all of your content. If the content isn't supplied by that week prior to it, the project doesn't start. And that's the way I've done it, because where you sort of block time out, if they come back and they go, oh, I didn't have time, can I send it to you next week? It's like, yeah, you can send it next week, but your project now won't go until the next available block. And when it might sound harsh, but I think when you're a freelancer, you are the only person. If you don't do it in a way, something like that, it's very easy that if you push it over for that client, you either compress the month that you said, at which point, you could end up not having enough time to do everything you need, or everything slips over. And for 1 week, you could live with that, and most clients could live with that. But if that's 1 week there, and then halfway through the project is another 3 days, and then the next client does the same kind of thing, by the time you're 3 or 4 clients in, you're a month behind. And you've then got to go to all those clients, explain to them why their project should have been launching today, and actually you haven't even started it yet. You haven't looked at it. So that's kind of what I've done. Is it's like, if you don't supply the content, you get shifted down the line to the next available slot. Gives you more time, but
what is the kind of so between the time you tell them I need the content, and what is the time spent between that and when the time slot begins? Like, do they have like 2 weeks, 3 weeks to kind of do that? How long?
Normally, I sort of like generally tended to be booked 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months in advance. So they've got plenty of time to do it. It's not like, that I would say, okay, we've had the meeting today, is Monday, so by Friday I want all the content off you. It would more likely be a case of, it could be a couple of weeks, but more than likely a couple of months. So they've got plenty of time to, if they need any help or advice off me, they can come back and forth in between that time before their slot starts. But like I say, then I know 1 week prior to that slot, and I'm still finishing up someone else's project, I know then if they're not going to be able to fit into that block, at which point, you know, sometimes you can move another client around that didn't come back to you quick enough, and you can slot them into that space that they should have filled, and they've got pushed. Do you know what I mean? It's just like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle kind of thing. But because you've blocked out your calendar and you've put those stipulations that until you have everything you need to launch the site, to build the site in place, the project doesn't start. And that's worked well for me over the last, you know, X number of years, but probably not the same for everybody. It depends how you configure and set things up within your business.
Right. So that's a great way to do it, and being in a position where we're booked months in advance, and also being able to say to the client that you're not gonna need to wait a couple of months. When you first started, and I'm sure that a lot of agencies are at a place where the client comes in and they need the website, right? So we want to start. When can we start? Can we start on Monday? You know, that's the kind of mindset that someone would have. I'm going to pay you today, and we're going to start on Monday, right? So you're doing these tough conversations with the client. Well, you can start working on the content on Monday, but we're going to start in 4 months to build it, right? What usually happens is that we dive into the project. So right after we have that proposal and they kind of commission the project, then the agency is gonna try and get this done as soon as possible and use that momentum that happens naturally from this a high that they're getting, that they're on after the discovery session that we talked about, right? So when it comes to gathering content, what we find is that usually what happens is that people would ask for the content at this stage, like you're saying. I'm not going to start the project until you get me the content. But then most people are going to be very easy about it and say, okay, so we have to start. So we're just going to start, and we're just going to get through those stages. And then by the time you really get the content, you're here. And you're filling out the last bits and pieces, like on the day of the launch, right? So that's why, like, I kind of stretch this guy out from start to finish, and usually that's the one that will even go beyond. You know, that will go all the way to the other side of the screen, and to my other screen here on the side, right? And then what I would propose, and we'll see exactly why this is happening, is not to do it like that. And I'll show you why right after this one. And then design approval starts right when we have something to show them, right? So then we have the wireframes and the prototype. And that's where already we're starting to approve some kind of a design, where we have our first revision round, approving the layout and the structure of the site itself. But then we're also going to do additional revision rounds when we're presenting the final design and doing some tweaks, you know, just not the third one shouldn't be a big change. It should just be like ironing out the kinks before we're launching the website itself. Cool. Paul, would you agree with this assessment, everything we've seen until now?
Pretty much, yeah. I think the longer you're kind of in this industry, that the sooner you start to realize that nothing goes according to plan. You can set all the things that you want, but they very rarely go according to plan, unless of course you are a very, very strict and rigid individual, and I think that's a good. No, it can work for some people. Yeah, it can work for some people, but I think you have to be flexible to a certain extent. You know, you can't just sort of go, you know, that's the way it is, or go away. And maybe I was in an enviable position where I could be sort of 6 months in advance booked up before people could fit into a time slot, and I very rarely sort of had anybody that wouldn't do that. But I also put into place that if someone wanted to be pushed up the timeline, then they paid more. You know, they could pay an extra amount of money, and they could then be pushed up, because not all clients need the work to be done straight away. You know, there's some clients that's like, you know, it's going to take them 6 months to get the content because they're working with a copywriter, maybe a designer to do the graphic work. So you know the project is more than just you. But then you've also got other people that you are doing everything for that project, and at which point, you know, they might be a little bit more demanding, and, you know, there's lots of variables. I mean, nothing is set in stone. Every project is its own breathing beast.
Yes, I agree that this is usually the case within the space. I would argue that we have to have proper systems in place, and like you have for some of those things that allow you to create those the leeway for the clients and booking in the calendar. Some things have to be rigid and very strict so that you can run a business, because it's not a game. We're trying to run a business here at the end of the day. And okay, so now let me share my screen here. I'm just gonna dive into platform so we can see really what Atarim. And so I'm gonna give you a sneak preview, and because like I told Paul, I was hoping that by the time we're doing this call, we're already gonna be launching the new platform. But as you know, with projects, sometimes things take a little longer than expected. So it was meant to go out this week, but it's gonna go out next week. But I can already show you where this is going with on our staging environment, so we can see kind of like a bit of sneak preview as to the new platform that will be launched next week. But we're still going to be working from the existing one, which is not as bad at all. So what we have here is basically my inbox, and just to give you a bit of understanding about WP Feedback and Atarim, what does that mean? It's divided into two parts of the product. There is the agency dashboard, which is what you're seeing here, where I have a list of all of my different websites, all connected to this one kind of centralized area. My goal is super simple. I just need to get everything to green. So you can see this one is done. This one has 12 pending requests. This one has 115 because it's a demo site that we're going to use on this call. This one has one. It's a live client that needs sorting out. This one has two. Also a live client that needs sorting out probably from today. This is the new website that we're building. We're using it ourselves with 10 requests in here, some staging sites, and so on, right? So this is basically our inbox, and this is where I go in the morning and I check what needs doing right now. So now let's dive into this one with 115 different tasks to see what is going on here. So first of all, you can see that I have my inbox, and as opposed to how most people do it right now is using emails to collaborate with clients and to get all of the relationship going, not just from the point of view of the design approval or not even just the content, but email is the most used platform for building websites nowadays. But it's a 30-year-old tool that was never designed for visual collaboration. It was meant to replace like physical letters essentially, and so it's just not the right tool for the job. So it's like trying to screw in a screw with a hammer. So what we did is we kind of created a variation of an inbox that allows people to, first of all, have all of their different requests filtered based on the different websites and the different clients. And it's designed for rapid prototyping and rapid kind of work as we're going from one task to another and getting things done. So if we're going to go into this one, we can see that we have, I'm just clicking around too much. Yeah. Right. So you can see that we have, we went into this demo site and we have an automated screenshot that was taken for the client automatically without them needing to do anything. I already know that the screen size that they were on was this, and the browser version is this. The username that created this is the demo site, so it's me, and where exactly the request is. But also, if I'm going to click on that, I can start delegating things to my team members. So, Paul, this one is for you. So if I have a team that is working with me, I can just do that and then notify the different team members, as opposed to what's happening right now. You get a message from a client either via email or on the phone or text message or WhatsApp or Facebook, or it's a mess in most cases. And then you take that request, you drop it into Slack, and then someone on Slack from the team is going to grab this task. Then you need to head over to Trello to drag the task to the right place and to list it properly. And then once it's done by the team member, they will let you know over on Slack so that you can move it on Trello and then text the client on the phone. So here, everything is just working automatically. And like a lot of the time, our day looks like it's, one of those, Paul, you remember those ladies from the 50s where it's like they're doing that all day long, right?
Oh yeah, with the cables. Yep.
Yes. So the phone operators, right?
Yes.
So that job was like systemized and automated like decades ago, but yet most of our day is still doing those different things all the time. How do you correlate emails to those messages? So I'll show you exactly how these requests are coming in. And when it comes to this request, Laura, with one of the upcoming versions in March, the version we're releasing in March, where we're also including emails in here, we're checking every email address against the users on those websites that you have listed. So if the client has a user with that email on the website and it's going into the desk, automatically it's filtered into the relevant project so that you and them, which is a huge thing on its own, so that they can have a track record of all of the stuff that you already completed. This way, they don't get overwhelmed with the stuff that needs doing. They can see, if I'm going to go to one of those live websites that I told you about, look at this guy. Yeah, with 341 requests that were made, 2 are pending. So every time they make a request, it's fine if it's waiting for a couple of days because they know that we get things done. They can see 340 that were already done before that. So it makes it a lot easier for the client to accept that the next request is also going to happen. Instead of being stressed and calling you and doing that and that, they see it visually on their side. And we'll see it from their point of view in a minute. Right now, we're exploring our point of view and our day. And I also talked about going to Trello and dragging things around so we get that kind of visual collaboration. So we're going to take you to the boards area where we can see, and this is the client that we were talking about right now. It popped open the task straight away for me. And if we're going to close this up, I can see the request that is sitting here. We have 2 open tasks in there, and we have 339 closed requests. Things move automatically. So as you and the client move the request from one stage to another, it's just going to give you that immediate snapshot of every project that you're working on. So let me go to the demo side so we don't show some customer data in here. And you can see here I have 113 open tasks, 2 tasks in progress. And me as the agency owner, really, I don't visit websites at all. All I do is I go to here and I just drag things around and allocate them to the different team members. And this is my view of the different projects and the different things that needs to get done. Or I can click on tasks from all sides to see everything. So my entire agency in one simple view over here. And also, if there's too much, we start organizing things based on the urgency of them. So what is critical? We're going to start from the critical and then move over to the low as we're getting these to green. Again, the goal is just that one goal, just get it to green.
So let me interrupt you a sec. Who actually chooses the severity then between the low, the medium, high, and critical? Is that the client side of things, or is there something else going on?
So some clients, we allow them to do it. And actually, the tougher clients, we allow them to do it. And the reason for that is because this is not really a signal about the severity of the request. It's a signal about their emotional state. If they feel that this is a critical thing to do, then they are freaked out, right? So that's why we want to make sure that we know, we empower them with a simple slider that tells them, that gives them that kind of visual slide to see how are you feeling about this request that you're asking right now.
Okay.
And so we do that. But for some clients or some project, or even within the website, you'll see that you can even choose that the client will have that ability. I mean, the main contact, but then the other guys, which is the team members, the SEO guys, the copywriter, the PPC guy, they will not see this option at all because you don't really care about their emotion, but you care about the client's one, right?
That's fair enough, yeah.
So and again, if I'm going to click through, it's just going to pop this thing open and give me that request straight away with that screenshot. Now, the cool thing is that if I'm going to go and find a task that is created on the website itself, and let's go to this one, right? This one was created on the homepage, and I'm going to click on this, and I can see that the request that was in discussion was done on the phone, and they want to change this piece of text. I'm going to click on this button. It's going to take me directly to that website. Not only that, it's going to log me in along the way. So you can see now I'm automatically logged in, and pop, it opened where the request is. So all of the time that we usually spend trying to find the problem, right? These two words that says the button is broken, but there's 1,000 buttons. Now, not only did you get a screenshot and it's like properly marked on it, when you click on it, it's just going to take you directly to where it is, scroll down, and pop that request where you need to get things done. Already logged in on the front end.
Cool.
So now all that is left for me to do is just edit the page and change this text to whatever. And we can see some other kind of examples here. Here is the hero section. This is where you want to showcase the main style of the website. So this is just like some kind of some instructions. And we can have this should say this to change the content on this part. And let's see, probably we're gonna have like images supplied in different places, pieces of content. All of these kind of stuff, everything nicely organized. Change this image to this. And again, when the image is uploaded, it goes directly into the media folder, as opposed to what happens now. When you're requesting content from a client, they need to know that they need to go to usually Dropbox, right? Is that the tool that you're also using, Paul?
I use Dropbox primarily because it's one of those things that people have free accounts on there. It works fine for most people. It's not that complex to set up.
Yes. But they still need to. So
yes.
Not only that, but they need to go there and figure that out if they're doing it for the first time, upload the files in there, only for you to log into there, download to your machine, and then visit the different websites to upload the files into the media folder. So that's gone. This is exactly this behavior that we have within our industry, just because no one created the right flow. But really, when the request is coming from the client, when we get an image, why not? Boom, there.
Reduces the redundancy.
Yes, exactly. Just saving clicks one at a time, And I told you about the kind of here the client can see. So right now we're on the client's website, and this what you're seeing here is what we call the client interface plugin, and their training, or their entire training from start to finish. So again, if we're taking this Dropbox example, you would ask them, okay, now for the content, you need to log into Dropbox or create an account on Dropbox, log into there and drop in the files in there that you're going to be creating on Word and gathering them, through images and so on, or even worse, spreadsheets that have H1s, H2s, all of those things, and then drop this into Dropbox. But that's just the start of it. Then we're going to have additional stages where we're probably going to share we're going to have some either Zoom calls where we're going to share the screen and they're going to be talking, wasting your time, or wasting everyone's time, just doing all of that kind of mess, sitting on your shoulder when you're changing stuff, right? Or even worse, asking them to send us screenshots that they need to learn how to annotate. So you need to tell them you need to download this Chrome extension, and no one does that, and you never get what you need. Or sometimes you would send them the image and they would look at it and say, okay, now what? So you would tell them, can you just create a Word document to give me the notes that you want me to do according to the design based on the screenshot that I sent? So it's insane. And usually the standard website project requires between 7 to 15 different tools that are introduced to the client within a span of those 5-6 weeks to just get the job done. And again, if we're looking at it from a different industry point of view, something that is pretty far from my reality, if my accountant will come to me and tell me you need to log into 8 to 7 to 15 different tools within the first couple of weeks of our relationship, first we're going to use Zero, and then you need the spreadsheet, and then I need you to go to send me an email, and then I need this one to be sent via post. So send this over the letter, and now can we have a phone call? And if you can please click here and choose the time from this booking link, and 7 to 15 different channels that I need to learn within such a short amount of time, I would get pissed off. And that's usually what happens with clients. By the time the project ends, everyone is just hyperventilating, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, just get it done, I just don't want to look at this anymore. So our approach is different. The only thing that we need to train the client is with one sentence. Please click the plus icon and choose anything on the website to leave a request right there. So if I'm going to share my screen here, click the plus icon, choose anything on the page to leave a request. So this one, change the text to this, right? For another one here, I choose this background and say, yeah, choose this background. So even better, I see that I already chose this background, so we don't have any duplicates of requests because I chose this before, 14 days ago on a different demo. I can see that I already did the exact same example, and I requested that the background will be changed to red, right? So now let me just mark this one as complete because this is pretty old. And you can see this is the interface that the client told us about their needs for the different elements. So for example, now this one is critical. And as I'm gonna start working on this, I'm probably gonna move this into in progress. Everything like that is triggering a notification so that you don't need to do the email telling them, now I'm working on it. Now I'm done. Now this is urgent. Now this is that, all of those micro communications that is just dragging the day. It's just a matter of doing this.
I mean, that is one of the things that is important, I think. It's like if you're using a tool like this, you do reduce the amount of pointless to and fro in between you and a client. You can get a daily or weekly synopsis of what needs to be done on a client site, the feedback that's coming back and forth. Those little things do make it so much easier. And you also, I think it helps to make the relationship run a little bit smoother, because when you're talking on a phone or via email, it can get a little bit stressed at times. If a project's not necessarily going the way you both like it to, it's difficult to sort of get that, to convey that over sort of like in a conversation. Whereas a tool like this kind of takes out that personal aspect to a certain extent. It just says, okay, this is what I want done. This is where I want it done. And it reduces that lost in communication, or lost in translation, I should say.
Yes.
Of
and
where
instead
is
of getting when they send every time you go on a phone call, it's like 5 minutes to start the conversation, 5 minutes to end the conversation, and basically you just wanted that piece of information right there in the middle that was 3 seconds long.
Yeah.
And or even with emails, all of this kind of just going in, doing the subject lines, the greetings, the background, and all of that. Here, it's just change this to this, change this to that. There is a place for building relationship, which is exactly what you're talking about, and that is very important to get in touch with clients just periodically and making sure that they are happy with everything that is happening. But when we need to get things done, that's what we need to do: get things done.
But also, I think it's, how can I say, is if a client comes back to you and says, well, Paul, I asked you to do this for me 3 weeks ago. And you go, did you? And they go, yes, I did. And they go, I don't think you did. Well, you've got a running tally of everything that's been requested, when it was requested, was it actioned, was it completed? If you go back and you look at this and go, crap, yeah, they did ask me that 6 weeks ago. You can hold your hands up and go, I'm sorry, it was my fault. I totally missed that. Whereas if they didn't do it, and you can go back and say, well, there's a list of everything. So unless something went wrong in that process, you can see yourself, that's not in the list of things you've requested me to do. So if you want to do it, no problem. But I think things like that can also help keep the relationship on track, when it could easily derail.
Yes, because things will fall between the cracks when you're dealing with emails and you get a request from this client and two from another one, and then going back to the first one. And then another one is on WhatsApp and another one is on Facebook and on Twitter. So yeah, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. And this mess is not doing anyone any favors. Like you want the clients to be on the same place so that they can have the clarity that they deserve. When they're going through a project, or as well as through the support on the ongoing flow.
Exactly. So there's lots of benefits for using tools like this.
Yes. Well, so now when it comes to the on-site kind of feedback, this is basically what we just seen here. But this is for us. This is like I said, this is the client interface, and this is basically the mechanism of getting information from the client in the most efficient way for both sides. The screenshot was grabbed automatically, the area was marked automatically, the message is short and snappy, you get a status and urgency and the additional information that you need, as well as tagging the whole thing. So for example, this one is a future task. I love the future task tag as a way of negating a scope creep. If there's something that is not really for now, it's just putting a future task tag on it. Then you can actually build a stage 2 of the project, or create an additional project of a roundup of tasks after that. We do this with all of our clients and a lot of other agencies that we're running with. That's the way to upsell. Instead of just saying yes to everything, I just drop this future task thing here and move on to what matters now. Right, I'm gonna go back to this one. I'm gonna talk a little bit about. Do we have some more time, Paul? How are we on the timing?
I think we've got about 10 minutes, if that's good for you.
Yeah, that's perfect. So I'm just going to go through some things around the daily workflow and working with teams, because as I started like our platform. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So when we started, what we had is just a standalone plugin, which is what now is just the client interface. And then we started expanding this further and further, and all the way to what we're seeing that's coming next week, which is what we're seeing here. Where not only that we're giving our users the ability to collaborate with clients visually on the website, but also you can do that on images, for logos or brochures that you're doing, or if you do want to create a design in Photoshop or XD, at least you don't need to retrain them, on using yet another tool. Everything is built into their own website, and the mentality is that the client needs to use their own website in order for them to get familiar with the value that the website can provide for their business. A lot of us take it, think about it. If you think about like a pair of shoes, like someone is paying for a pair of shoes, and then you would hold the box, and whenever the client wants to see those pair of shoes, they have to come to your office or to the shop, and then you just open the box for them, and yeah, you can look at them, but you can't touch them. I don't want you to wear the shoes because you're gonna ruin them. So instead of actually enjoying the value and understanding what WordPress can really do for their business, I'm sure you would agree, Paul, that the clients that are actually using the website are the ones that are benefiting the most for it, and they are the ones that are spending the most on it or investing the most in it, as opposed to the ones that just look at it like a flyer.
Yeah, I think you kind of have two kinds of clients. I think you have those that have a website because they think they need it, and then people that have a website because they see the value in it. And I think those ones that see the value in it are the ones that they do focus on using their website, keeping it updated, making changes, doing all the things you'd expect them to do to maintain and actually create something that's a resource, whether that's an online sales resource or an information resource or whatever. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think that it's our responsibility to get them to that realization that their website is not a flyer online. It is a marketing platform that can drive millions and millions of dollars of sales.
Exactly. To take you back to one point you just mentioned, with the new version that's coming out, and you said you can use it to comment on graphics and things. Can you also use it on PDFs?
No. So the PDFs is something that we're gonna be doing it next. Okay. But for now, it's JPEGs and PNGs on there. But we also have like version tracking, so you can upload new versions, and it's basically going to overlay the last one, so you can already see very visually the progress just by choosing the different versions and seeing like a match between them. Okay. But also, if I'm going to go back to this one, I wanted to point out the importance of benchmarking your agency, which I think is something that is very lacking in our business. And I'm seeing this as a super powerful in our industry. And now as a SaaS founder, I see this so much being emphasized, like the fact that you need to know your numbers, you need to know your KPIs and what you're actually achieving with every day, with the team members, with the productivity that you're doing, because SaaS is all about efficiency, right? And I would argue that being an agency owner or a freelancer is even more than that, because the margins are so slim. So being aware of the different KPIs, like how long does it take you to respond first time? How long does it take you to complete the different tasks on average? Who is spending how long, how much time? Because we also have internal time tracking for the different tasks in here, so you can see the different team members and what they're doing.
Okay.
Another awesome thing is our godlike section here. I like to call it the godlike feature because it gives me, as the agency owner, an overview of exactly what every team member is doing at any given moment. So I can really look at this and know if they're working or not. You know, a lot of times you're not really sure, especially you're working with when you're outsourcing and working with third party kind of developers.
Yeah.
So just being aware of everything that is happening within your business. Who are the clients that are spending them or taking the most of your time? What we found is that 80% of the clients, it's like the classic Pareto rule, 80% of our time is spent on 20% of our clients. But in most cases, those 20% of clients are paying the same amount as the other people that are, as the other 80%. In terms of monthly care plans and stuff like that. So just being aware of who are the clients that are taking most of your day away from you, so you can actually charge accordingly and grow according to that.
Super useful as you kind of you grow in business and you have more and more clients coming on board. That's the kind of information you need to be aware of, because like you say, it allows you to action, to nurture those relationships. Because
Yes.
if you've got a client that pays you well, they pay, over the lifespan, let's just say 2 to 3 years, they've spent 50% more than your average client. That's the relationship you want to keep nurturing, because
Exactly.
generally the ideal client is one that you don't hear from that often but pays you every time you want something, and they've always got a new project for you, but they're not looking over your shoulder. We'd all love clients like that. But when
Yeah.
you can identify those out of your client base, at least it means you can make informed decisions on how you nurture and grow that relationship, and maybe don't spend quite so much time on the ones that are time suck but don't pay you, because the ones that suck most of the time are the ones that give you the least amount of money usually. That.
Exactly. And
you
this is
know
what always happens. And I had to learn this the hard way. We had a client that, without noticing, because the team was just saying yes to everything that she requested, I ended up being 25,000 pounds in the hole of wasted time over months, just because I was focused on getting new work in the door.
yeah,
While the team was just doing everything that she wanted, like that was worth like full on salaries every single month without
yeah,
noticing.
yeah. And like you say, without knowing that, you can't do anything about it, you can't address it. But when you've got the statistics in front of you, you can make a much more informed decision on how. Sometimes you've got clients like that, they're not worth having. So they're the kind of ones you can identify it, and then you can say, right, well, we need to cut the ties with this client because financially they're costing us more than they're making us.
Yeah, and a lot of times just creating a strain on our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I made a video about this probably about a year ago. A client that I lost went to a competitor, and it was the best thing they ever did. Because I pressed the wrong button there, sorry. Because basically, forget the money that they were paying me. The money really did not outweigh the stress that they brought with them, and it just wasn't worth it. So I was glad, and life has been better since. So
Yes, I agree. I had a few clients like that as well. This is always a very freeing experience. It's scary to do, but after you do it, it's like, how did I do it sooner?
yeah, but again, I think that's the thing that comes with confidence. When you do this for a lot longer, you do build confidence, and you feel better that you can tell those clients this relationship isn't working in whatever way, and then you can pass them on in a polite way or find more creative ways to no longer work together.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much. So if we're gonna go through there's all kinds of other stuff like time tracking and team tracking, and to make sure that we're basically managing a freelancer business or an agency in the right way. So it starts with that those client relationships, but it also goes into the team relationships, and it goes to your profitability as an agency as you're growing, which is always a challenge with digital agencies, to maintain a profit at the end of the day if you're not keeping tabs on things. So the new platform, Atarim, is no longer just that WP feedback tool. It's a full-on agency management platform. I even like to say that instead of being a project management system, it is the project manager. So as opposed to like Asana or stuff like that, where you're getting like a clean slate and you need to know what you're doing to actually create the systems. This is like an agency in a box. You come, you go in, you drop it into the clients, and the whole thing just works for you.
Okay, excellent. Sounds great. Right, let's take a couple of little questions. Then there's been a couple of sort of popped up as you go along, and then we'll say a thank you very much for a wonderful presentation tonight. So, Laura, she's asking, do you find it difficult to get clients to sign up to another piece of software to actually get them into using your system?
I agree. It's very hard to get clients to use a different piece of software. That's why they don't need to. And this is one of the crazy things that we do as an industry. We try to get them to log into Basecamp or to log into InVision or to log into Dropbox. But here, they're going into their own website. Not only that, they don't even need to log in. During the build, we have what we call guest mode, so that they just need to visit the website and it works.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of part question to do with the platform, kind of part question to do with what we were talking about earlier on, saying, what if you have a good paying client, nice person, but just not capable of creating and providing the content? Do you lengthen the project, charge more, or do it for them with their input? How would you approach something like that?
So I would say that it doesn't make sense that a business owner can't create the content for their own website. The reason why I'm saying that is because every business owner loves to talk about their business. It's their passion. It's what they do. And if you would sit next to them at the dinner party, they would probably eat your head off. Just look at me. I've been talking about it for an hour, nonstop. So what we want to do is just create that same scenario of empowering them in a way that makes sense. The reason why clients don't provide content is not because they can't, not because they don't want to, it's because they don't know how to. And what we're doing is we're just laying out all of the lorem ipsums, and I'll just share my screen 1 second with this wireframing template that we're providing to all of our users. Right, we go here. So we have for every page builder, Elementor, Divi, Gutenberg, Beaver Builder. There's a few others out there that we're providing one for each. So you're getting a template that all you need to do is basically delete the sections that you don't want. And this is basically an end result of a homepage that I created within like 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'll show you the main one, how it looks full. Learn home template, right? So what you're getting is this. And there's like a 7-minute video that shows you how to use that properly. But this is a great way to create the layouts and to collect the content instantly. So you see, we have what we did is we created the long scrollable page that has 3 to 5 of each one of the standard sections that you would find on a modern website. So for example, we have 3 headers, 5 hero sections, and so on and so on. And all you do is just delete the ones you don't want, and you end up with a page that is designed to have no design. So it gives the client the ability to focus on what we need from them at this point, which is just go around and provide the content on each one of the places that you see there is no content. Or even more than that, if we need a little more information for them, we'll tell them this is for your About Us section, right? We'll give them some one-liners to go about it. And so instead of thinking a client can't do it, it's not true. Every business owner can talk about their business, or you just need to empower them with a way that allows them to do it.
Yeah, I think also part of the initial meeting is to lay expectations, to discuss if they've got any points they're not comfortable with, if copywriting or creating the content is something they're not good at. I think that's a good time to start addressing it. So you sow the seeds that, look, if you don't want to do this or you're not comfortable doing it, if you can provide at least a bare bones outline of what it is you want to promote via your website, then either they or you, or through recommendation, you could look at working with a copywriter that you would trust. But at some point the client has to have key input, otherwise the site isn't going to work, because the only person that knows their business really, really well is the business owner. You know, us outsider, we can take on board loads of information, but we'll never know their business that well because we don't live their business. Same as if they came to us and said, right, okay, I'm going to tell you about your business. You'd be like, knock yourself out. You're probably not going to get anywhere near what it's really about. So maybe part of that initial meeting is to lay expectations, find out areas that a client is not comfortable with, and help address those to ease their fears and maybe help them make the whole process just a little bit smoother running.
Yeah, and this is exactly like this. It comes from the education of this because, as you're saying, no one will know better than the business owner themselves. And what we found is that if you know how to, you want to, because it's your website, it's your project, then you're gonna be able to do this. Also, for small business owners, which is I think it's a shame, but copywriting is or creating copy for websites seems like an investment that they don't want to make. They don't see the value in it.
No.
At least for the earlier stages in their business, until you get to a place where you bring in consultants to talk about the headline, right?
Yeah.
But early on, they don't see the value in hiring or outsourcing that additional or paying extra for a copywriter. So you got to go through the motion of training them this. And again, the mistake is that in most cases, what our industry does is that it sends them into a blank Google Doc and tells them write, and
Yeah.
that's where they get lost. That's what is what foreign to them. But if you really see a visual representation and context, which is the main thing that is missing from the content gathering process, is context. Like you don't know what you're really doing where. So you're getting like one-liners where you need full paragraphs. So you have those three icons, and everyone has like 3 words.
Yeah.
But because they can't see it, they will provide like 2 paragraphs for each sentence, each 3 words that needs to be in there. Calls to action can be like super long if they can't see that it's a button. Just we're building something visual. A website is no more than a visual representation of the business online. So why are we trying to strip the entire visual aspect of it? In most cases, completely. And it gets to a point where you don't show the website to the client until it's ready. In a lot of cases, where you're going through a visual process of creating this. So the more you can show, the more it's going to put you and the client on the same page.
Exactly. So we've got a question here from Bradbury, who missed the start of this, saying, so what are the technicalities you mentioned? How do you integrate this with the site? Is it a plugin, sit on the server? Is it WordPress only?
You just drop it into a website and it's there. Right now it's WordPress only, but soon it's going to be a script as well that you can install on every website. The fact that we have a plugin, and this is one of the unique stuff about this thing, because we started as a plugin. It kind of happened to become a unique thing because of just the progression of things. But because we're integrated into the database, we have the ability to do stuff that are magical for your day, like the login that takes you directly to where the request is. So which means that you never need to share logins with any freelancers or any kind of subcontractors that you're working, or team members. No one needs to remember passwords ever again. They just log in as an agency owner or as a team member of the agency or the freelancer. They go into that dashboard, the agency dashboard, and from there they have access to only the websites that they should see, and go in there, one click to push things into the media folder. That again saves so much insane hassle of taking things out and taking them into Photoshop, save for web, or go to TinyPNG, right? You go to TinyPNG, you drop it in there, download to your computer, then you go to the website. So instead, we're just optimizing the images on our side in the same mechanism like you would find on Smoosh or TinyPNG or something like that, which means that the client sends the image, you click a button, boom, it's in the media folder, done.
So it automatically compresses it on the way up as well. So you can configure the compression ratio, and does it resize, or is it just compression?
It's just compresses it. Okay. So, but WordPress will resize it automatically.
Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna one more comment than question, I think, which is from Spenny. I think a laid out a prototype with Lorem Ipsum based modules is a great way to help the client create content. It visualizes the concept. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree 100% that and this goes back to that point that we're building a visual thing. Website is a visual thing, so it's like you can talk about, imagine a musician that tries to describe a song in so many words to someone that never heard music in their life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, like, try to explain a song, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So, Laura, really appreciate both you guys taking the time to go through this software with us today, and I appreciate Vito taking the time to join me. It seems to solve a lot of issues that I have as a freelancer and as a company I work with. I mean, yeah, that's the whole point, I think, behind this, is to ease those pain points as designers, as developers, as whatever we want to call ourselves. We live through every single day, and a tool like this is ultimately there to ease those pain points and reduce the amount of toing and froing we've got to do on a daily basis.
Yes, and there's more than we've been around for 18 months now. More than 5,000 freelancers and agencies are already on board. We're installed on tens of thousands of websites. Just in 2020, we helped complete 108,000 tasks, which is the equivalent of saving the industry 5 years over 2020. And we're not going to stop. We're just getting started.
That sounds excellent. So where can people find out a little bit more now that you're rebranding, and like you say, that's going to be coming out hopefully next week? But where can they find out about you right now, and where can they find out about you when that actually launches?
Right. I'll just give the new URL because it has a button to take to the current website until we launch next week, which is atarim.io, atarim.io.
Excellent. I'll put all the links in the description if I haven't already. I'm pretty sure that I did, but I'll put those in the description of the video so if people want to sort of check it out and find out more, they can do. So, Vito, I just want to say thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and to have you to present to all those interested people that have been in there tonight. So thank you very much, and thank you to everybody that's been involved in tonight. And I will see you next Thursday. And Vito, have a fantastic evening, and the same to everybody else. So thank you very much for joining us, and I shall see you very soon.
Cheers.